I get corona, I get corona. At the end of the day, I'm not going to let it stop me from partying.
It's really messing up with my spring break. 'Cause what is there to do here other than go to the bars or the beach, and they're closing all of it? It's really messing up. I think they're blowing it way out of proportion.
You're doing us bad. We need a refund. This virus ain't that serious. It's serious. It's more serious things out there like hunger and poverty, and we need to address that.
A lot of people in America don't really understand what this coronavirus really is. No one really does, but there's a lot of, it's just another flu, bro, kind of people. A lot of people are hoping for a mild case. Let me tell you what a mild case feels like. Just to give you some background information, I kind of ignored the coronavirus news before I left. I went to Bali. In the airport, in Incheon airport, on the way back home, I caught the virus, and I wasn't wearing a mask or anything. 2 days later, I started to feel it. I mean, it came in different phases. Sore throat and stomach burns and diarrhea at first. And then came the aches. Just like I couldn't sleep, you know? It was like I'm just tired and I want to sleep, but I can't lay down and I can't sleep, but my mind is just like exhausted. And then headaches and exhaustion first or next. Then shortly an extreme fever. Like I never felt flash chills like this. You're dealing with your stomach problem and all of a sudden you just get this super chill like out of nowhere, like you were just sweating. Sore throat healed, but everything else, especially the stomach pains, were still happening. I mean, during this time, I'm drinking the oil of oregano, experiencing fluids in my lungs. And then shortly, difficulty breathing, you know? I mean, there were moments where I had to just kind of take a deep breath, like, like, why am I short on breath, you know? You know, usually you don't have to think about breathing, but you would just be laying there and you feel like, oh, I need more oxygen. Like, is the air thinner? Like, I didn't think about the coronavirus the whole time here. Like, I didn't know that it was a coronavirus until like much later on. I didn't think about getting tested because I've gotten sick several times, gotten a fever several times, but never the chills and never the aches to that extreme, and like the dreams that I have. I haven't felt aches that bad or those kind of dreams when I'm sick since I was in grade school. You know. So after a week passed, the fever went down kinda, and the aches calmed down, but still it was such an annoyance to lay down. I was such in an emotional turmoil. So I went to church looking for answers, you know. This stuff just brings you down to depression, and you just want to get out, get some fresh air or something. So my fever was still there, but it was like 30%. But, you know, feeling hopeless, you know, you gotta do something about your emotional state. A church member invited me over to get some vitamin C tea and lemon tea, powdered lemon tea, just a bunch of things, bagels, you know, because I didn't really eat much either, you know. It's just hard to eat. And sometimes even though you should be drinking some of the oil of oregano, it's just really hard to drink. So you have to rub it on your hands and on your legs to let your body absorb it. Oh, I'm telling you, man, it was the worst. I'm telling you. But after a couple of days, you know, I was getting a little better. The stomach pain stopped hurting a little bit. The fever went down to 10%. You know, and I could sleep well again, kind of. 2 weeks later, I went to work feeling kind of like a slight hangover, but the symptoms were all gone. But it's like the hangover from the virus. It was the worst. Like, I didn't even know that it was like coronavirus until I started researching it and taking it more seriously. Like, what? Now it's becoming, more of an epidemic, and all these people are getting sick. And then the Daegu situation happened, that big cluster. Then I started looking into it, and then when I looked at the symptoms, I was like, wow, maybe that explains it. You know, I mean, I didn't get myself checked because I didn't know about the virus. I was ignoring it. Like I knew, like before I left to Bali, that there were cases just like 2 miles south from here, and some talk about schools closing and everything, whatever follows with any kind of epidemic. So yeah, that's what a mild case is like. And now, all better and trying to educate everyone else. It's so funny. Like, people don't really get it until it hits home, then it's too late. Like I try to tell them, like, I'm in Korea, like, I have experienced this. I said, like, this is going to come in pretty quick. I asked them, how are you preparing for this? And they were talking about, like, headache medicines and fever medicines. And I said, this is a COVID-19 virus. It's going to attack your lungs. What's going to fill your lungs with fluid? And what's going to shorten you of your breath? I got a text message back saying that I was better off writing a science fiction novel. People think you're crazy, right? What you should be worried about most, and what I'm here to tell you about, is how do you protect your lungs? What do you do when someone is infected? It's attacking the older people, but the children are the carriers because they don't show much of a symptom. They do get sick, fevers and things, something small that looks like a flu or just a cold. But I told them what to get. I said, get this oil of oregano. This will be a lifesaver, because USA is so unprepared for this. There's not enough equipment and masks, ventilators, hospital beds for quarantine. If we are waiting this long for a vaccine, you might want to have that in your inventory. My dad said, make sure you buy a one-way ticket back home. And I said, you are functioning based on panic. I'm not afraid. I just caught this thing. I didn't tell anybody. I don't think I should have to tell someone, oh, I got infected. That's my basis of why you should do what I'm telling you. I think it was maybe 2 weeks after I warned them to get ready now. Now's the time. Then it hit hard. Washington State, California, New York. And then when it hit Georgia, there were like 2 cases. One of them said they want to go to Costco in Alpharetta. And someone else said, don't go there. Someone is infected there. And I'm thinking, wow, you really think that's going to stop? If just wait until it's everywhere. It's going to be in your backyard. There's going to be like 50 cases in your town. So what does it matter where you go? Wherever you go, you need to wear a mask. As I mentioned, that some people think that maybe they can just get the virus, get over it, overcome it, and they are now immune to it, kind of like a cold. But it's not, because this virus mutates. There have been cases in China that I know of where someone had been cured from the COVID-19, and then she was infected again. So this thing is changing. Like, usually that's the evolution of viruses. This one's an evolution from the SARS. And so it evolves because once it starts to transmit through humans, it gets better at absorbing into your ACE2 proteins in your lungs, becoming more efficient of a virus. Oh, we'll just wait for the vaccine, but it's going to take about 18 months for a safe vaccine for mass production. You need to know how to wear a mask, how to use it properly, meaning treat the world like it's an operating room or something, where you don't touch your face, don't touch your mask. full awareness of where your hands are going. And then there was this one cute video of this woman representative in a state was saying on public TV not to touch your eyes, don't rub your nose, don't touch your mouth, wash your hands. And then when she turns the page, she licks her finger and turns the page. That's funny. How the coronavirus works is that they have this coating on the surface. The S protein from the virus attaches to the lungs, ACE2, and kind of enters the cell that way. And the lungs do have a lot of ACE2 proteins, but there was an article that was posted on the Hubei Chinese government website that was deleted eventually, and I found that article, and it was talking about how the testicles have the most ACE2 proteins, like 5 times more. And so even though people who recover from this coronavirus may have like some lung problems still, like it's scarred over because of the dead cells that the coronavirus had killed. Chances are, like, even if you survive that, you may have a low sperm count because it attacks the male reproductive functions. So I'm finding all these articles that the news isn't talking about, and there's a lot of misinformation going on too, a lot of information warfare. We don't have leaders who get it and take action early on as possible. People say they don't undermine this, but they don't know what they're undermining or not undermining. And my answer to them was, get ready. Be mentally prepared, really. Mentally prepared. It's a lot better than a shock of a surprise. Luckily, in Seoul, there's only about 300 cases so far and 0 deaths. While New York now, they have dug the lime pits. Now they have about 16,000. I forgot how many deaths. This is March 23rd right now, day 60. But I can understand from American perspective that when you hear something like this, we haven't experienced a pandemic for 100 years, since the Spanish flu, even though it didn't start from Spain. That was where it kind of exploded, that's all, in Spain. The news, the media, presidents, they repeat again and again that masks do not help. Talk about brainwash, right? I can't even talk my friends into wearing masks. Only those who do the research and see what's going on and knowing where the virus came from will understand why you should wear a mask, and they will. And I know this because look how many people have been affected. It didn't need to be this way. But there's nothing you can do because that's the culture in America, and I know because I'm from there. Like if I was in that situation too, I would ignore it. I would take it for granted, totally. I would never wear a mask. It's socially awkward. But when you're telling people from Korea that just, where the big wave just went through Korea and experiencing this COVID-19, after you recover, then you try to share the information to to your friends and family, and then they just don't understand, China wants to be, I don't want to get into politics, but I do want to say that if they want to be the world leader, a role model, you have to take responsibility. It's irresponsible just for the sake of saving face. Is your face saving more important than the outcome that's happening now? China has a lot of hold onto WHO. They fund WHO, I think about 70% or something. Some people might think, yeah, China is real smart, to the point of surveillance where even it's affecting America too, a democratic state. Why would someone be proud? So just imagine a world controlled by China telling us what we can think about, can talk about, and you don't have the freedom to share the information or the reality of what's going on. Why would someone be proud of that? Someone who doesn't care about, or even ever had to share some information, some real information. You know, what's really funny about China is that it's supposed to be a communist country, but when the chips are down, and they are right now because of the outbreak, their true colors come out and they behave very much like North Korea. They close themselves in, try to convince the world that they have it under control and they only have a small amount of cases. Sometimes they have very little cases or none at all, which is total lie. Like even America wanted to offer bringing in the best virologists and doctors and scientists to come and see what they can do to figure out what we're dealing with, what kind of virus we're dealing with. And China declined because in terms of information warfare, they're pointing at America. They're saying American foreigners came and infected the country. There's like 5 or 6 journalists that have snuck out little bits of information out to us. Some news of what's going on down on the street of China. We don't even, like very much like North Korea, we don't know what happens to these quarantined people. They like to brag about like some good things about their deed. If there's the slightest good news that they can say, that's what goes on the newspaper. Like we have just built this spraying thing in the middle of the city where it's like round and you can stand in the middle of it and it sprays mist on you and it disinfects you. It's like in the newspaper, like, wow, we're the best. We built like 4 of these in the city just for you guys. But if you look at the ratio of population in that city, only like 1% of the people in that population can get disinfected. Anyway. Yeah. There's just so much to talk about,
All right, let's talk about the disease progression really quickly. A lot of questions about this have come up. First, you get exposed. Somehow you get exposed. Hopefully, remember, you want to get a light viral load, not a heavy viral load. With a light viral load, you have a better disease outcome and progression because what's going to happen is you're going to have more time as that light load of viruses has to replicate to become a heavy load in your body so that when you finally present to symptoms, it'll be more days. More days will have passed. And with that time, your body now has a chance to identify the invader, begin to mount its own response, turn on the antibody machinery and all that, right? With a heavy load, it's much more likely that you're going to present as a serious case. All right, so you get exposed, and then it's up to 14 days, maybe 27. We don't really know, but everybody's using 14 here. I'm sure that even if it was a 27-day, I'm going to bet that it looks something like this, with 14 days being about here, 5 to 7 days being here in the center of this thing. Very few people will get it in one day, which would be way down here. But maybe a few, just out of 1,000 people, there might be 5 or 10 that exist down here, including at least one case out of China all the way out here to 27 days. But for the most part, 14 days, you're probably catching most of the area under that curve. So you're exposed 14 days, and then when you finally become symptomatic, they're calling this day 1. Patients run a fever. They may also experience fatigue, muscle pain, and a dry cough. A small minority may have had diarrhea or nausea 1 or 2 days before. And by the way, some of the early data I'm seeing suggests that if you do have the gastrointestinal sign, that also correlates with a more severe disease progression. And so I'm going to, again, early data. I've just seen the early reports around that. I haven't seen really solid stuff. So just hold that as provisional for now. But again, that would be a concerning sign, I think, if that comes up. Enough to warrant additional attention. By day 5, patients may have difficulty breathing, especially if they are older or have a pre-existing health condition. So, you just you feel bad. Then day 5, you have that difficulty breathing. Day 7, now this is how long it takes on average before patients are admitted to a hospital. The Wuhan University study found, they're talking about that big study of 44,000 patients. That was a big one. So gave us a lot of good data. So this is kind of, at day 7, is kind of like either you're going to be turning the corner for the better, or this is where it kind of takes a turn for the worse. And the problem is it seems to take a really rapid turn for the worse. Like people are okay. Well, they have a light case of pneumonia. Bang, 12 to 24 hours later, there's a serious ARDS situation going on. So day 8, at this point, patients with severe cases develop ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome, an illness that occurs when fluid builds up in the lungs. ARDS is often fatal. If untreated, it's very close to always fatal. It's a very bad thing. Day 10, if patients have worsening symptoms, this is the time in the disease's progression when they're most likely to be admitted to the ICU. These patients probably have more abdominal pain and appetite loss than patients with milder cases. Only a small fraction die. The fatality rate is hovered around 3%. To me, that's not a small fraction. 3% is an unacceptable sort of a risk, but that's me. Day 17, on average, people who recover from the virus are discharged from the hospital after 2.5 weeks. So this is a really expensive disease in terms of money, obviously, but time and resources and attention. It takes a lot to keep these people alive and going from a medical standpoint. So that just wears the staff down, of course, to be on like that all the time.